Let me explain how I got here.
I ordered this UDL M1887 from CS Noob's website on the 25th of October, and it arrived on my doorstep in Southern California on the 17th of November. It did not arrive within a box, despite me ordering the extras package, which leads me to assume tampering from the post office at some end. Keep this in mind, as toy guns will be met with extra scrutiny. Inside the gross bubble wrap package was everything promised from the extras option: the blaster itself, a cheap, useless sight pretending to be a red dot, an adhesive stick-on shell holder, some cheap safety glasses that I would strongly advise against using, very thin and cheaply made white gloves, a wristband shell holder that hardly fits an adult male wrist, 2 sets of 10 darts, 20 in total, and a set of 6 shells. This is a lever-primed blaster which is actually based on the Winchester model of 1887 lever shotgun design by John Moses Browning. Famously, John Moses Browning was hesitant to make a lever-action shotgun, instead proposing a pump or slide-action design, which he would get to do later with the Model 1893 and the more famous Model 1897, 10 years after this baby. This blaster is essentially a breech-loading operation with a magazine where the lever opens the breech, allowing you to load in 5 shells into the tube and 1 in the chamber. You then close the action and you are ready to fire.
You cannot ghost load this blaster as you could with the original design, as while visually it is nearly identical, mechanically it's quite a bit different.
Much of this blaster is altered from that original design. External details of note are the top rail mount, which I've replaced with my own 3D printed part, allowing for the addition of an optic as well as your own choice of various other accessories. There is also a non-functioning hammer, which is oddly spring-loaded, but seemingly serves no purpose, either mechanically or aesthetically. You can also choose to mount the shell holder to either side of the blaster for faster offhand loading. The 6 shells that come with the blaster do not have a complete dart fit, meaning that not all of the shell acts as a barrel for the dart. Only a small part at the very rear of the shell holds the dart, which, sadly, makes it impossible to load multiple 50 caliber foam balls into a single shell. With that note, let's see how it fires.
And now for a comparison. Hopefully, combined with my shooting test of the stock blaster, this shows just how weak this blaster is. Of note is that my blaster arrived primed at my doorstep, which means that for at least 23 days, days, the already weak spring was made that much worse. For $130 US, that is unacceptable. I've had reports from all over the community that report much the same. Complaints that each of UDL's blasters are underpowered. Mechanically, it functions fairly reliably, despite it only being a shadow of John Moses Browning's design. I encountered two significant types of jams, which I will attempt to demonstrate in video form. The first type of jam is what I call failure to load, where a shell will slide out from the magazine tube, typically during loading procedure, and strike into the breech. This is mainly a user error jam and can be fixed by simply attempting to finagle the shell back into the magazine tube. The second form of error is what I'm calling failure to chamber, where a shell will fail to chamber due to not lifting up from the loading elevator properly. I'm not really sure what causes this issue. I had to purposefully attempt to cause this jam in order to get it on video, so it seems a bit of a rarer occurrence than the user error magazine jam. I was only able to get this to happen on video by purposefully operating the blaster at a slower rate than it's supposed to. The overall build and quality of this blaster is solid and rugged thanks to the materials used and the genius of John Moses Browning's designs. The blaster is comprised almost entirely of heavy-duty plastics and durable metals. A mix of what I can only guess is either Delrin or PVC with aluminum and zinc metals. It is also mechanically reliable, at least on par with its real steel counterpart. However, this is still not a justification for that $130 price tag before shipping. The shells, while of a nice material, have a loose dart fit that affects the blaster's performance. My blaster arrived primed, and I will repeat that because it is disgraceful. And of all of the accessories that came with the blaster in the extras package, the only thing I didn't immediately throw away as useless add-on junk was the adhesive shell holder, which is actually quite nice. There is a way to safely unload the blaster if you follow this video by tilting it upside down and slowly opening the breech just enough for the shell to have clearance to fall out, but not enough for it to fully prime. And this is how you can avoid dry firing the blaster. This is not mentioned anywhere on the product description. I also removed the grip and attempted to remove the top rail mount in order to better view the internals. And from these photos you can probably tell just how smushed that spring was. It also has a plunger tube comparable to that of a Jolt. My recommendation to someone looking to buy this blaster is don't. This thing isn't junk. John Moses Browning didn't design junk. But it is not a justifiable purchase at $130 US. Unless you really want it and don't mind dropping that much money and really want a foam dart launching M1887, because this thing is actually pretty cool to think about, you know. Then maybe. But if you do decide to purchase this blaster, maybe consider the next. I had some hope for this blaster, so I purchased a 14 kilogram upgrade spring from Zhendao Toys for about $10 US. If you're interested in finding it, this is how that's spelled. You can also just look for M1887 upgrade spring and it should pop up. Included was the upgrade spring and a replacement O-ring. I put both of those in the blaster, but before adding the O-ring, I also added some Teflon tape for that better seal. Good old Teflon tape. For the outside, I added a tri-rail barrel mount for a shotgun tube that I found on Amazon so that I could add my own front sight and a sling mount. I also added a sling mount and a rear sight to the rear rail. With apologies to Jonathan Ferguson, keeper of Royal Arms and Artillery, I did also add a charm to the sling mount. Also chopped off about 2 inches from the front of the barrel. It's just a little too long for my taste. I decided to make my own rear rail mount, 3D printed, to accept the rear sight from the Adventure Force Nexus Pro, as the original did not properly fit it. And I just really like the leaf sight, so I went ahead and did that. The stock shells, while technically of good quality, are pretty bad functionally. So I decided I would 3D print my own shell. I went through about 8 different design iterations before the final design, which you saw being shot in the previous video. I also tested these stock shells after the upgrade and saw a bump in performance in those as well. By this time, I did have a working chrono, and I did 3 tests on each set of shells. I gathered up those numbers, and I got the following results. Stock shells saw performance jump up to high 70s, low 80s FPS, while my custom 3D printed shells saw performance ranging from high 90s to low hundreds. As an added bonus, my shells can actually shoot multiple shots of 50 cal foam balls, up to 4. I did attempt to get readings on velocity, but this proved next to impossible with the shot load. So after all of that, this has become one of, if not my favorite blaster. But that's mainly because of how much work I put into this. I still would not recommend this blaster except to die-hard fans of the M1887 design and of Nerf flinging blasters who don't mind dropping about 2 days worth of a paycheck into a blaster and upgrade. If you do get it, consider the upgrades I mentioned, and keep in mind, as of this video, we are still in the midst of a global pandemic that is not slowing down and is affecting shipping time. Plus, there is the possibility that, with it being considered a toy firearm, even though by definition it is not a firearm, that it will be detained and stopped by authorities. The website I purchased this blaster from, CS Noobs, does have a refund policy on their store should this ever happen to you and you are unable to receive your blaster. Overall, I can't lie about the fact that I do like this blaster, but I do not feel right in ever recommending it. I hope this video at the very least provides you with all the information needed to make an informed choice. Happy foam flinging, cowboy. Oh, that reminds me. You can spin cock this blaster, but not one hand. If you try to do that with this, you will probably break your fingers.